Hi, my name is Melissa Carroll, and I would like to talk about the past progressive tense with time clauses. The past progressive tense is also known as the past continuous tense, and it commonly follows adverbs such as while and as, which introduces the time clause.
The past progressive tense is used to describe an action that was in progress in the past. Past progressive form. In the positive sentences, for example, I have I was studying and they were studying. You will notice that there is subject-verb agreement here. I was studying, they were studying. And in the negative sentences, you simply add not. And in this case, we usually contract them. So it becomes I wasn't studying, they weren't studying. But of course, you can say I was not studying. It's just a native English person would prefer the contraction. I wasn't studying, they weren't studying. And below on the left we have questions. Simply reverse the subject and the auxiliary verb was. In this case, what I was studying becomes was I studying, and the answer is yes, I was. You can say yes, I was studying, but it's not necessary. Was I studying? No, I wasn't studying. You can say no, I wasn't, or no, I wasn't studying. And then, were you studying? Yes, we were, or yes, we were studying. No, we weren't, or no, we weren't studying. Now that we've talked about the form of the past progressive, I'd like to talk about the meaning of the past progressive and what it means in certain situations. There are 4 different uses of the past progressive. We use it to describe a duration in the past. This is an action that was in progress in the past. And past progressive is also known as the past continuous. So it's an action that was continuing in the past. It could be 2 actions happening at the same time together that were in progress together or continuing together at the same time in the past. Or it could be one action began first in the past in a continuous way that was then interrupted by another event. Or the 4th case is actually not really an interruption by time, but it kind of makes it easier to remember if you call it an interruption by time, because the past progressive goes with time in the past, meaning that something was in progress in the past at that moment in time. So, for example, what were you doing last night at 10 o'clock? Duration. The past progressive indicates a limited duration of time of an action in the past. So it was something that continued in the past for a duration of time. For example, I was playing soccer all afternoon. Now, I'm not playing soccer now, so you'll notice that the yellow arrow that says continued does not reach the now part. It's, in fact, a continuation of an action that took place in the past for a duration of time, all afternoon. I was playing soccer all afternoon. For example, they weren't paying attention in class today. Yes, you can use it in the negative. I was sightseeing all weekend long. We were golfing yesterday afternoon. Can you see all those durations of time? In class today. That means for the duration of class time, I wasn't paying attention. And all weekend long is an obvious duration of time. And then, of course, yesterday afternoon is still a duration, although shorter than all weekend long. The second meaning of using the past continuous or past progressive tense is when there are 2 or more actions that were happening in the past for a duration of time at the same time. So in this picture, we have Cindy and Evan who were working at the table, Grandma Sue who was enjoying a cup of tea, Baby Ben who was playing with a ball while sitting on the sofa, and Dad who was also enjoying a cup of tea. Usul, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that really, Usul or Usul, of course, was sleeping in front of the fireplace. Some examples. I was doing my homework while I was listening to music. These are 2 events happening at the same time in the past. They were both in progress at the same time. I was doing my homework while I was listening to music. You'll notice that the connector is a time clause. While begins the time clause. While is what you will use when you're connecting two events happening at the same time in the past. Or you can start your sentence with while, which is the time clause. While I was listening to music is the time clause. If you start this sentence with the time clause, you must use the comma that is green. For example, while I was listening to music, I was doing my homework. While I was listening to music is the time clause or the dependent clause, and I was doing my homework is the independent clause. You can mix them around. The first sentence I started with I, the subject, or the main clause if you want, or the independent clause, and I put while in the middle. There's no comma. But if you choose to start your sentence with a time clause, you must have a comma before you have the main clause follow it. The third use and meaning of the past progressive is when an action was in progress and interrupted by another action. So in the past, you have something that began in the past and was in progress, and you could say that it was incomplete. It never got completed because it was interrupted by another action. We were waiting for my friend when we saw a car accident. We were waiting was the action that took place first. It was in progress. La la la, we are waiting. We were waiting for my friend, when we saw a car accident. That is what interrupted our waiting for a friend. Do we continue to wait for a friend? It's not important. That action got interrupted. An example, I was washing the dishes when the phone rang. Or when the phone rang, I was washing the dishes. You've noticed, no doubt, that they are movable pieces. Or I could say while I was washing the dishes, comma, the phone rang. It's the same information. I have a choice between using the when time clause or the while time clause, but it matters where I put while or when. While is followed by the past progressive, was washing, and when is followed by the simple past, the phone rang. So you just need to keep your times together with your time clauses. While goes with the past progressive, when is usually followed by the simple past. So here my examples again are while I was. So you might ask, how are they different? The simple past and the past progressive. They're both past tenses. The simple past is completed actions in the past. They are past habits or routines, and they are past truths and facts. But the past progressive represents 4 different types of usages and meaning, and that is an action that is in duration in the past, or 2 events that were happening together at the same time in the past, or one began first and was in progress when another interrupted it. And then the last category is when we imaginarily interrupt it with time. So something that was in progress at a certain time. So yesterday I was watching TV at 8 o'clock. The simple past and the past progressive example sentences. So for the simple past, we would have, I went to the cinema yesterday, and that's a completed action. I always visited my grandparents when I was a child. That's a past habit. And I lived in Vancouver for a couple of years. That's a fact. But with a past progressive, the example sentences are, I was watching TV when the phone rang. Last night at 7 p.m., I was having dinner. That's an example of being interrupted by time. While she was doing her homework, her brother was playing soccer. 2 actions happening at the same time. Question, which action happens first in the past? The simple past or the past progressive? The past progressive. It was in progress first before it got interrupted. Another question. Can you use non-action verbs with the past progressive tense? No, only action verbs can be used in the past progressive because they are the only verbs that you can make into an ing verb. So you can't say, I was hearing the radio yesterday when you called. You have to say, I was listening to the radio yesterday when you called, because listen is an action verb and hear is a non-action verb, also known as a stative verb. And the fourth category, interruptions with time. It's not really time interrupting the action that was taking place in the past, but it looks like that. So that's the category heading here I put as an easy reminder. Basically, the past progressive goes with time. So I was watching TV last night at 8 o'clock. Well, when you put 8 o'clock, think of it as an interruption. So I was watching TV. Oh, it's 8 o'clock, as though you're looking up at the clock. Some examples. What were you doing at 8 p.m.? 8 p.m. is, of course, the time. I was washing the dishes. He was sleeping. She was studying at the library. There's no need to repeat at 8 p.m. We don't say, what were you doing at 8 p.m.? I was washing the dishes at 8 p.m., although you can, but typically there's no need to repeat it. Let's practice. So, what was Simon doing yesterday at 3 p.m.? Complete the sentence. Simon blank football at 3 p.m. yesterday. What were the children doing at 8 a.m. yesterday? The children blank to school at 8 a.m. yesterday. Complete the sentence. Yeah, Simon was playing football at 3 p.m. yesterday. Remember I said you don't have to repeat the at 3 p.m. yesterday if you don't want to. You could simply say Simon was playing football. And the children were going to school at 8 a.m. yesterday. You, of course, don't have to repeat the 8 a.m. yesterday. You could simply say the children were going to school. Remember, there is always subject-verb agreement. Discussion time. What were you doing last night at 7 p.m.? What were you doing last night at 10 p.m.? What were you doing at midnight? What about 6 a.m. this morning? What were you doing this morning? I want you to discuss with each other for a few minutes at your table. Ask some of these questions and then answer, of course, in the past progressive. And you might want to use some follow-up questions like, why were you still sleeping at 10 a.m. this morning, etc. Time clause words are when, while, and as. So with when, you will have the verb that follows when will be in the simple past, and the verb that follows while and as will be past progressive. While and as are green because they are similar and interchangeable. Dependent clause and independent clause. The dependent clause is going to be your past time clause. They're going to be words that start with when, while, as, etc. And the independent clause is the main clause. So when the house collapsed is a dependent clause. It's the time clause in the past. And the main clause is I was eating dinner. When the house collapsed, I was eating dinner. If you're going to begin your sentence with your past time clause, you must use a comma. While I was sleeping, comma, the phone rang. As I was sleeping, comma, the phone rang. While and as go with the past continuous, and when is followed by the simple past. Time words. So when is usually followed by the simple past. I say usually. You can always follow when with the simple past, but native English speakers might sometimes use the past progressive. I don't want you to do that at this point. I want you to learn these simple rules that will help you be correct 100% of the time. So if you use when followed by the simple past, and while followed by the past progressive, and as followed by the past progressive, you will always be right. When you go to a higher level and you have a better... It's 3 p.m. last Sunday. What were they doing? Grandfather was reading the newspaper. Grandmother was knitting. What word is missing? While. Cindy was listening to the radio. Nikki was drawing a picture. What word is missing? While. You get it. Father was sleeping. Mother was drinking some water. What word is missing? While. So you notice these are all examples of two or more actions happening in the past at the same time. What were they doing 1 hour later? Grandfather blank TV while grandmother blank. Grandfather was watching TV while grandmother was knitting. Cindy blank her homework while Nikki blank to the radio. Cindy was doing her homework while Nikki was listening to the radio. Father blank beer while mother blank some water. Father was drinking beer while mother was boiling some water. Pop quiz. Van Gogh was a famous artist who was troubled. He isolated himself in the south of France and began to paint. His brothers supported him financially while he painting. Where's the mistake? A, B, C, or D? Right. He was painting while he was painting. While is followed by the past progressive. Don't forget to review. The end. Following it must be